It's time for Tycoons of Small Biz, spotlighting the true backbone of the American economy, the true tycoons of business in America, the owners, founders, and CEOs of small businesses. The show's hosts, Austin Peterson and Landon Mance, are registered representatives of Lincoln Financial Advisors Corporation, a broker-dealer member SIPC, and registered investment advisor. The views expressed by your hosts, Austin and Landon, are not necessarily the views of Lincoln Financial Advisors. Let's lean in as Austin and Landon connect with this week's Tycoons.
Good afternoon, Tycoons, and welcome to today's episode of Tycoons of Small Biz. This is Austin Peterson. I am flying solo today. Landon Mance thought he deserved a day off to vacation with his twins today. So I'm here in studio with Tom Goodman, who's one of the local chairs for Vistage worldwide, and then also CEO of Business Technologies, and Alison Claerhout with Arizona Tile and Stone Specialists. Tom and Alison, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to have you guys here. And for our listeners, I've known Tom for a little over a year and Alison for about 6 months. Tom is the chair of the Vistage group that I've mentioned a few times on air, and Alison is another one of the members of our group. And so I'm excited to have them in and talk a little bit about what we do in Vistage and why it's important to us as business owners, but also to learn a little bit more about Alison's business as well, and learn more about each other while we're here. So that's exciting. So we do always try to start and have our guests tell a little bit about their personal lives, family lives, those sorts of things, and then kind of how they got to where they are. So Alison, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Definitely. So Alison Claerhout, I'm from Michigan, born and raised there, moved out to Arizona in 2017. And purchased Arizona Tile and Stone Specialists. When I left Michigan, I left a company, a career that I absolutely loved, and things like that are really hard to replace. And so when I was looking for a job, I remembered something my former boss had told me. She said, one day you're going to run your own company. And I had never really put much thought into that until I started looking for a new job out here. So I started looking for businesses that were for sale and just kind of diving in and looking at financials and processes and seeing, what was important for businesses here in Arizona, trying to decide which industry to go into. I remembered growing up, I had worked with my dad a lot in remodeling houses and working on our own house. And I always just really enjoyed working with my hands. So when I started to come across businesses that were for sale in the service industry, I knew I had found a good fit. So Arizona Tile and Stone Specialist is a tile and grout and carpet cleaning company. So we offer cleaning and sealing services, but our specialty is really natural stone restoration, honing, polishing, cleaning, sealing, repairs, hole fills, anything you can think of when it comes to natural stone or tile surfaces, we can service.
Gotcha. So mixture of residential and commercial, mostly residential. What's the...
Yeah, I would say it's probably 30% commercial, and residential is really the bread and butter. We're in, probably 30 houses a week, servicing homeowners, and then working a lot in hotels, hospitals, apartment communities, all different types of commercial places around the valley.
Gotcha. And then married, kids?
Married.
Okay.
My husband, Manny. Married for a year in a few weeks.
Oh,
so
wow.
Wow.
September 28th is our anniversary. No kids. We have fur babies, so 2 dogs and a cat.
Awesome.
Yep.
And been in Arizona since 2017, you said?
Yeah, December of 2017. Yep.
Okay. So you're just about to the point where your blood's thin enough that...
I don't know about that. It's still pretty warm.
Boy, I tell you, I go out of town, even just to go up to Flagstaff or whatever, and it gets down to 70 degrees, and I feel like I need a jacket on. And I lived in Southern California forever, where it's sunny and 75 year-round. That's comfortable. You're wearing shorts and a T-shirt all the time, but now all of a sudden that feels cold to me. So it's a strange phenomenon, the way that works. All right, Tom, you're up.
Thank you. So I actually came out to Motorola, and I'm going to hold off on the date here, but those of you that are familiar with Phoenix businesses remember Motorola. And I came out here after graduate school, graduated in materials engineering, and came out here to work for Motorola. And did that for a spell until I headed overseas and worked for Sony, actually, in Japan for 3 years before coming back and moving to Austin. and worked there for a company, came back to work for another processing company in the microelectronics space. And then back in 2011, decided to leave there. And in fact, I left, put in my 2 weeks notice 3 days before 9/11 back in 2001. So I didn't pick a real great time to be out of a job. But another person, a colleague of mine, left the same company about 6 months later, and he and I started our first business together back in 2002. And in that company, we did business development and technology development for a number of companies that worked in the microelectronics space. As you might guess, we spent a lot of time in Asia doing that, and a lot of travel. And we did that through the downturn in 2008, which I'll probably touch upon later, but that was a very difficult time for us. And then we dissolved that company in 2014. He moved up to be a gentleman rancher and still does technology work. And then I started another company in 2015, which is Business Technologies. And that company, in the same way, was doing technology and business development. And during those experiences of the two companies doing technology and business development, I ended up working with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses and startups. Did some work with some Fortune 500 companies as well, but a good chunk of the work was in very small companies, and that gave me my experience and my passion for small business. Coming through to about 3 years ago, I'd spent a lot of time working, as you do. Any of you that are small business people know that you wear a lot of hats, particularly in startups. And as such, I was in there primarily as a technologist, but I ended up doing a lot of work on the executive teams as well. So that fueled my passion for leadership. And it was about 3 or 4 years ago, I thought, I'd been doing a lot of coaching really with these clients of ours. And I thought, how can I do that? And how can I do that more? And so I looked around and found out about Vistage, which was a shame. I found out about it so late in my career. But I interviewed with him, applied for a position as a chair, and was accepted as a chair. And so started building my group back in 2018 and launched it with Austin, was one of our founding members back in September of 2019. No, sorry, that was June of 2019. And then Alison joined in January, I'm thinking, or February?
I thought it was March or April. I'm not keeping track.
All right.
Whenever COVID started is when I joined.
Right. So that's it. That's been my transition from a microelectronics engineer, and I still do that work. I've got one client in Japan that's a very large and very great materials company. I still do work with them, but I'm focused on working with executives and company leaders here in Phoenix, and it's just an awesome opportunity to be able to work with just driven, amazing people.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I moved to Arizona in 2014, so I got here about 3 years before Alison. I don't think you said what year you came.
I came in 1985.
1985.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got a little bit of extra time on us, but what I do know and love about Phoenix is that it's a pretty big hub for small business, right? We don't have any. We do have a couple of offices of Fortune 500 companies here, but it's really a place where small and medium-sized businesses thrive and drive the economy here in Phoenix, which is something that I've really enjoyed since moving here in 2014 and part of what drew me here. So I want to go back to Alison. I know that your history, you said that, you had kind of a dream job that you left in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, what necessarily prompted you to move out here to Arizona at that time. So maybe you can touch on that. And I know you have some history in nonprofit, but, touch on that a little bit. And then really what was the driving force behind you buying a business yourself?
Yeah. So being in Michigan, my fiance, the man I was dating at the time when I lived there, he was also from Michigan, but has lived here in Arizona for about 14 years. And so we connected online and just, started dating and flying back and forth every month for about 12 months and decided that was getting kind of expensive. And we needed to make a decision on which state we wanted to live in, whether it was going to be Michigan or Arizona. And unfortunately, we made that decision in December, so Michigan did not have a fighting chance. And so decided to move out here. And again, in terms of purchasing a company, I just there was just something, once it popped into my head, it was just something I could not ignore. It felt right. Every time I applied for a different job, I thought, nah, I don't know if that's the right fit. I don't know if this one's going to be good for me. But then looking at businesses to purchase, I really, really enjoyed digging into how different businesses run and who does what, which way, and what don't I know, and how can I learn more. And the more I dug into it, the more I really enjoyed it. So my background was I was the director of philanthropy for a biotech nonprofit in Michigan. It was based out of Ann Arbor. It was called Eversight. And we restored eyesight to people that had lost their sight, to about 8,000 or so people every year. So people that had gone almost completely blind, we could bring their sight back through cornea transplantation. So I was involved in promoting the Michigan Organ Donor Registry, in public education, fundraising, a lot of event planning, a lot of just getting out in the public and talking to people about donation, because it's not something that's commonly known. I mean, I didn't know you could transplant corneas until I started working there. It was a fantastic company, worked with really, really amazing groups, a lot of work with Lions clubs throughout the entire state of Michigan. Fantastic group of people, so generous, so kind. And so I knew that I loved working with people. I had a great team under me that supported me, and I supported them in our travels throughout the state. And I enjoyed the management side of things. I enjoyed putting my department's budget together every year, putting the marketing together, just brainstorming ways we can make things better and reach out to more people. And so I took all of that knowledge and brought it out here with me, along with I have an undergrad degree in integrative public relations, and then my master's degree in administration. So I had a little bit of education to fall back on along with that, and just combining all of these skills that I had picked up over the years. I thought, what better time, fresh start. Let's start looking at some different opportunities, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe not obvious, right, to draw the parallels between what you were doing before, right? Because not that having clean tile and stone isn't important, but it's not giving people their sight back, right?
Exactly.
And so, but the reality is there are parallels that can be drawn between what you did before and what you're doing now, right?
Definitely.
Specifically in the values and the different things that you bring to the table. So maybe touch on that real quick, and what you learned in the nonprofit world that you're applying in business today that has made you to be as successful as you've been just in these first couple of years.
Definitely. I mean, customer service alone is huge. When we're dealing with organ donation, we're working with families that have just lost a loved one, and you want to talk to them about, donating their corneas, their organs, things like that. And, it's a pretty stressful moment. So you learn how to talk to people and how to listen and how to work with people and understand what they want and bring that service to them. And so, working with so many different people and personalities and different cultures all over Michigan, I learned that I love to work with people. I love interacting with customers. I love interacting with people, with my team. I love learning about how to be a better leader and what types of things we can do to provide service to people. And so, that to me really just kind of lined right up with what we do with our company. It's customer service 100%. It's educating people about the service that we provide. It's, setting expectations right up front. This is what we can do. This is what can't be done. This is how we do things. I'll walk you through the process. Let me know if you have questions. If we're done and you have more questions, call me. Let's talk about it. Let's just have a conversation. And that's what I encourage my technicians to do as well. When you get to the house, take a walk through it. Look at what the customer wants. Listen to them. See what we can do for them. If you have, other suggestions on other services that might get us a little closer to what they're expecting, let's talk about it. We're not just walking in silently doing our job and leaving. We want to have a relationship with our customers. And that directly relates to what I used to do in Michigan.
Yeah, I can certainly see that. And I think a lot of people make mistakes, young entrepreneurs specifically, in believing that you've got to create something new, right? It's got to be a new technology. And this will obviously speak to you, Tom. But, you feel like you've got to create some sort of a new technology or new, microchip or a new app or, whatever it is. But the reality is there are a lot of businesses that we use every single day as consumers that we're just not happy with. We kind of just accept what's there And you can take a business that's pretty mundane, right, in a lot of people's viewpoints, and you can say, you know what, I'm going to do that better, right? And I actually owned, it was a franchise, but I owned a residential and commercial painting company as a side business for me about a decade ago. And we just applied what I do in my financial planning company the same way that you're applying it and saying, we're going to provide better service. People are used to people showing up late and being dirty and not communicating well and, all those sorts of things. And so we're going to do things differently. The estimator's going to show up in a polo shirt, for example, instead of painting clothes and, all those sorts of things that make a difference. And then we're going to be responsive. We're going to return calls quickly. We're going to provide a professional estimate, all those sorts of things that really just make a business that much better. You didn't have to recreate the wheel. You just improved what was there, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's a good lesson for anybody who is interested in being in business and doesn't feel like they've got a creative idea that they're gonna be able to put out there. There are plenty of ways to be an entrepreneur in this world. You just need to make sure that you're doing it better than the guy down the street.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Tom, give us a little bit of information on, you've worked with multiple companies, some of them very, very large organizations, right? You mentioned Motorola and so forth. And so you've kind of worked inside of these large organizations, but then eventually you went to your own consulting, and now you work specifically with owners and CEOs of companies here in the area. So
Right.
Give us some background on how you got to where you are today with that.
Yeah. So again, like Alison, spent a lot of time in larger organizations, and I think part of it is just the desire to go out and create. And when I left my last, what I'll call real company, and started my own, it was really a desire on my part and also that of my partner to do something new and to do something different. And at that time, people would call it consulting. It really wasn't consulting. What we were doing was contract development. And early on, it was technology development, process development. And then, as I said, over the years, particularly as we worked with more and more small companies and startups, it morphed into a kind of executive sort of development as well. But it's just what you're saying. The idea was for us to bring something new to our clients that they weren't getting, but also part of what we did with our clients was working with them so they would bring something new to their customers. And so our clients were typically companies that were developing a materials technology or an equipment technology, a process technology, and they wanted to get that into their customers' applications. And so, we would tell them, look, there are 6 other large companies that are doing exactly what you're doing. So here's what you want to do. You don't want to sell a material. You don't want to sell a piece of equipment. You don't want to sell a process. You want to sell expertise, and you want to become a technical resource for your customer. So you're just not providing them with stuff. I mean, you're actually someone that they feel they can call when they've got a problem. And so we were doing this in our own companies, but we were also trying to level up our clients in the same way. And so in the electronics industry, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's just an absolutely cutthroat industry. A lot of long time industries like automotive are like that. It's, razor thin profit margins. And, we would always tell them, price is a lousy place to compete. Bring value.
Yeah.
Just bring more value. If you're doing it through customer service, that's one great way. If you're doing it through a new technology, that's great. But as you've said, you don't need that. Yeah. You just have to bring more value to your client or your customer, and they will not only work with you, they'll want to keep you.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I actually had an example of that Thursday or Friday last week. I was introduced to a new client, and throughout this conversation, he's working with another advisor at this point, and just wanted a second opinion and had some questions about certain things, and it came to the point of some premium payments that he was making on some specific products that he owned. And, we started talking about price and the difference in what he's paying and what he could be paying and why he's paying what he's paying. And it really came down to me saying to him, price really only matters in the absence of value. And it comes down to am I getting enough value for the price that I'm paying? And if not, then I should be looking at something else that I can get for a cheaper price, right? But if you're truly getting that additional value for the additional price, then it's worth it, right? I mean, we know that we should be doing that. And that I think is a hard thing for everybody, right? Because you may have a better process, Alison, that makes the tile cleaner or the grout cleaner or the natural stone sealed better, whatever it is. It may be a process that makes your price more valuable. But if somebody's just looking at an estimate and they're saying Alison's cleaning, 150 not square. Well, I guess it would be square feet. 150 square feet of our countertops, or 800 square feet of tile, and so's this other team, and they're 25% less. If you haven't conveyed that value to them, they don't know whether or not they should be paying you for that additional value.
Absolutely. We get those calls all the time, and we always our internal phrase that we use is comparing apples to apples. Pull up your estimate. You don't need to tell us pricing or anything like that, but pull up your estimate. What's the process there? Let's explain to you our process to make sure you understand. You really are comparing two of the same things. And a lot of times you're not. One company does things one way, and maybe you got a deal because that's just a quick thing, whereas we quoted you for a deeper process. We have many different services, and that's why that conversation is so important. Talking about what you're bringing to the table and making sure you're on the same page with the customer.
Yeah. I mean, transparency, communication, customer service, all those things are mega important in running a service business specifically, right?
Absolutely.
Because they're thinking they're comparing apples to apples when they're not in reality comparing apples to apples.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right.
That really comes into play with us for polishing as well. There's so many levels of it. It's just depending on what you want your stone to look like. We just absolutely require an in-home estimate at that point, because there's no way we can explain over email all the different amazing things we could do to your natural stone. We want to point out what we see. We want to show you what we can do. We want you to tell us what's bothering you. How do you want this to look? What level do you want this up to? We can do it all. Just tell us, and then we'll put it together. We'll craft it to how you'd like it to be.
Yeah. So, Tom, tell me, how do we get from providing some, I know it's not just consulting, but some expertise on the technology side, right? And you kind of already answered this, but I think you mentioned it just in passing, is, it morphed into working more with the executive teams, right? And so is that really kind of what led you from that to, man, this Vistage thing is probably a really good fit for me? Because that's what you're doing, is you're helping develop executives and business, business owners. Right.
And I think, backing up to what you were saying, yeah, absolutely. Especially the smaller the company we are working with, the more hats. I'll call them the executive team, but typically it's the owner and one or two other people that are invested in the company. There's people that have done this before. No, there's just too much going on to really keep your head around all of it, right? So we used to work with them. A lot of it's just stepping outside of the box and looking inwards and saying, guys, why are you doing it like this? Why are you doing it like that? And then they would stop and say, God, I don't really know. Actually, that's just what we're doing. Yeah. So it was, if it was a consulting, it was a very low level consulting on executives, but you were just asking questions of people. And a lot of times people will answer their own questions or they'll solve their own problems. They just need people to ask them the right questions. And so this drew me into, why a company actually runs and how it runs. And ultimately it's the people, right? And, working with an executive, particularly, in Vistage, depending on the group, but typically we work with the owner, the president, the CEO, the person that's making all the decisions. And, if you can work with a person at that level, you can have a huge influence on what they're doing. And in turn, if you're helping them to level up their own performance, their company, then that's going to trickle down to people in the company. That's going to trickle out to the families of the people in the company. It's going to trickle out into the communities where the families live, the people of the company. And so when I started thinking about this, when I started considering, getting into executive coaching full time and looking at Vistage, I thought, my goodness, this is such an opportunity to have a profound effect on my community at large. again, it's not nothing that the coach does. It's just helping the people that are being coached to understand themselves, kind of the reasons why they're doing things and how they might be able to do things differently.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been a member, like you said, what has it been, a year and a half now?
Year and change, yeah.
So I would push back on that and say that you do have more of effect than maybe you give yourself credit for. But, a big part of it is facilitating the communication between, the other members, so to speak.
Right.
But let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. And then I want to come back and ask Alison, how she heard of Vistage, how she got involved with Vistage, and maybe what her favorite parts about Vistage are. And then I'll weigh in on what mine are, especially if they're different than what Alison's are.
Whether you're an established local company or a brand new startup, you can count on GBS to be part of your family. We're not just any benefits consulting firm, we're GBS. We have nearly 30 years of experience in group benefits, a strong sense of purpose, and it shows. GBS, believe in something better. gbsbenefits.com.
Welcome back, Tycoons. I'm here with Alison and Tom today, and we're talking about obviously the different things that we do in our small businesses and how it affects our personal lives and why we participate in a group called Vistage Worldwide. And then, of course, highlighting Alison's business and the important things that they're doing in the community as well. So before we talk about Vistage, actually, I wanted to ask you specifically some projects that you're working on, Alison. I think there may be a couple of interesting projects that you're working on that you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, definitely. So when COVID struck us in the spring, we were very fortunate to be able to continue to work cleaning and disinfecting homes and commercial properties around the Phoenix Valley. But I saw a lot of our fellow small businesses begin to suffer in our area. Others were, forced to completely close their doors or to change the way they're doing business entirely, curbside, limited occupancy, going digital, things like that. And so my team got together and we really just wanted to do something to help. So we came up with our Love to Local campaign. And the thought with that, I just started reaching out to small businesses in the area, sometimes offering complimentary tile cleaning or carpet cleaning, or we have team meetings every morning. I would get a big takeout order of breakfast from a local restaurant that I knew wasn't doing great because they had to essentially, close their doors and not let people inside. But while I was there, the flip side of that was, at their establishment, I would do a Facebook Live video and I would talk about the business and about their updated, COVID hours and how they've changed their services and just kind of give a testimonial as to why we chose to partner with them and what they're doing in our community and how people can really help. And it was quite popular. Our technicians really had a great time doing it. They felt that they were part of something larger than just the day-to-day tasks that they were doing. And so what we're working on for this fall, we're going to partner with nonprofits. We're looking for nonprofits that we can partner with to, help them out, figure out what we can offer them to keep things moving for them, maybe cut their expenses, get their tile cleaned, something like that. So we're currently on the hunt for some nonprofits that we can work with.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. And there are obviously some nonprofits that would benefit from that. And the other small businesses in the community have certainly benefited from that. And, I think that that's a good lesson for all of us. When tragedy strikes, we can either look inward and think, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this just happened and my business is down whatever percent, right? Mm-hmm. Or we can say, gosh, this really does suck, but I know I'm not in the worst position out there. What can I do to give back? And I know this isn't why you did this, but you're also going to find that a year or two from now, what you did during that time is going to come back to you, right? Part of that's karma, I think, but part of it is you really did what you could to help other business owners in your community to be able to get through this as best as they can by providing a service to them and saying, hey, you know what? We're with you. Arm in arm, we're small business owners. We're all going to make it through this together.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think actually that's a perfect lead into Vistage because Vistage does an awful lot of that. I mean, Vistage is, and I'll let Tom speak to this because he's the expert, but Vistage is really there to help small business owners to be better at what they do, right? And so tell us how you got in touch with Vistage originally. How did you come to hear of them? And then why did you join? Why do you stay? What is it that you get from Vistage that you love?
For sure. So my husband works for Sunland Asphalt. And we both really admire and look up to the leaders at that company. They're fantastic people, so personable, always willing to help. So then when they found out that I had purchased a company and was just kind of getting my feet wet and figuring out what I needed to do, they all encouraged me to join Vistage. Many people at Sunland are members of Vistage. And they said, you have to do this. You've got to, this is going to be huge for you. You need to do it. And so I did.
Oh, that's great. And that's obviously great to hear for you, Tom, too, that, other members are referring new members and they're seeing the value in it and understanding that this is an important thing for Alison, who's going to be starting her own, her first journey as a business owner and recommending she join Vistage. So that's awesome.
Right.
So what is it that you love most about Vistage, or what's your favorite part about Vistage?
And I think my favorite part of it is I don't feel like I'm in it alone, in terms of being a small business owner, because, really I meet with my employees every morning for about 20 minutes and then they all leave and I'm in the office by myself all day long. And, facing a new challenge every day as a business owner, whether it be HR related or paperwork or taxes or something new, I now have a support system when I have a question. There might be a member in the group who's an expert in that area, or when I meet with Tom, I can ask him or call him out of the blue, just, hey, I'm up against this. Do you know anyone? Or what would you do? Or, I have that system in place now. And the phrase that comes to mind when I joined Vistage was, I don't know what I don't know. And I still feel like that every single day. I learn something new every day. And sometimes it's terrifying and other times it's exciting. But it's just built of such a fantastic core group of people who are, kind of in the same boat as me. Some have more experience, some have less, but we're all getting together every month or multiple times a month now because of COVID, sharing our experiences, what worked, what didn't, what would you do different, how would you approach this, and just kind of supporting each other in that journey. And it's been huge for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, for me, it is having that support system. I've been married for 22 years and my wife's there. She supports me, but my wife's not a business owner, doesn't have a business mind, doesn't have an interest in doing any of that. She's very good. She actually works in the nonprofit world, specifically working with refugees. And there's some things that she's really, really good at. Business is not one, and she's not really interested in it. And so I can't really have a conversation with her about the frustrations of running my business or, what do you think about this? Because her mind just doesn't work that way. And so I would echo, having that support system of, 10, 12, 15 other business owners that we can have a conversation with once or twice a month and just say, this is what I'm going through, or hear different perspectives. Or even if it has nothing to do with me personally and something that I'm dealing with, hearing others talk about their issues, a lot of times it's, oh my gosh, yeah, I deal with that too. And if I did it that way, it would be better. Mm-hmm. That kind of feedback I think is priceless as a small business owner.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So Tom, tell us, a little bit more about the group itself. I mean, we've got Alison, obviously. She owns a tile and stone company.
Right.
I'm a member and I own a financial planning company, but what about the rest of the board?
Well, we've got just a really interesting cross-section of people. We are a small to mid-sized business group. Vistage has several different kinds of groups, but the small to mid-sized business groups are kind of, these limits are a little bit squishy, but 1 to 15 or 20 million in revenue. And we've got people down in the 1 million range, and I think our highest one is about 12 or 13 million this year. We've got one member, and a number of our members have multiple businesses, which is really interesting. One of our members has an engineering company that builds electrical control panels, but he is a great entrepreneur. He bought a truck to haul his control panels around rather than paying someone else to do that. And he thought, gee, I wonder if I could make some money hauling other people's stuff. He started that, and he saw an ad for Amazon delivery services. And I had no idea it was so difficult to be an Amazon delivery service, but he got selected to be one. And he's just, with COVID, that business of his just blew open. And he's, the poor guy, he's working like a dog right now, just trying to staff up with it. And it's been super successful. Yeah. And that's, something that he's gotten a lot of support from our Vistage group and the Vistage community as well. And we've also got a person that runs a software and app development company. We've got a person that is CEO of a drug and alcohol rehab facility here in town, and they're expanding out into several different states. We have one of the really well-known experts in the cannabis industry is on our board. So we've just got an amazing cross-section of people.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually surprised when I joined, and I was one of the beginning, you know, I was maybe number 4 or 5, something like that in the group. And, you know, even then the cross-section was surprising to me. And as it's grown to realize, you know, some of the ways that people are out there building businesses is almost surprising to you, right? I mean, you think that you know business, but then you realize that somebody's, you know, running a whole business looking at medical records and preparing information, summarizing those medical records so that they can be used in court cases. You know, I mean, just different, unique businesses that are out there, services that we need, and people are building thriving businesses doing it. Right.
Yeah. And the interesting part is that because we have such diversity on the board, and that's something we purposely look for. We want as many different ideas and ways of thinking around the table as we can. Austin, you're a financial person. You've got a way of thinking about a problem. I'm an engineer. I've got a way of thinking about a problem. Alison, you're a nonprofit MBA person. You've got your own way of thinking about it. But we get as many different people as we can around a table. And I am constantly blown away by when we process the members' issue, all that comes out of it from the group. It's just things I've never even considered. So it's an amazing way to pick apart and a problem and look for solutions.
Yeah, I mean, for those small business owners that are listening, we when we meet, we typically process. It's called an issue processing session, and we'll process 1 to 2 issues with one or two of the business owners in the group, and we basically just have them lay out what the issue is that they're facing. And then the rest of the group asks a bunch of questions to learn more about what it is that they're dealing without embedding solutions in those questions, right? So it's ask more questions, make sure we understand. And then it's, you know, here's what I'm seeing and have you thought about doing it this way? And we kind of start to lay out all these different solutions for the business owner. And I've done it a few times. I know Alison's done it once or twice. And, you know, it's valuable to go through that exercise and to just get those different perspectives and to think, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, right? And, you know, Alison said earlier, I don't know what I don't know. And these sessions kind of bring that out in the group. And we realize that, you know, maybe we did forget to think about one part of this decision that we're looking at and trying to figure out the best solution for our business going forward. It's a very valuable process, and you're surrounded by people who have different perspectives that are smart in their own right and in their own area, and that makes us all collectively better.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be surrounded by just smart, intelligent, and I will say too, open people. It's a key thing about being in a Vistage group is we're very, very open about what's going on in our businesses and our lives that impact our ability to lead a company, lead our families, be a leader in our community. And without that vulnerability, you know, it's difficult to get to the real root of some of the issues. So that's just been an amazing thing. People in the group just sharing at a very deep level things that are going on. One example, the last meeting, people like to talk about best practices in business. We talked about worst practices. You know, what have you done? What have you screwed up? You know, what were you doing that just had a really negative impact, you know, financially, personally, maybe it damaged some relationships. And the group talked very deeply about that. And it was really interesting to see the shared experiences there. And then a lot of people were saying, oh, wow, I never even thought of that. When I have to do this, I'll keep that in mind and taking notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That openness, I think, is key. And really, it helps all of us feel more comfortable with one another and know that no matter what it is, we can share that with the group. There's no judgment. They're there to help us. They're there to help pick us up if we need to be picked up because something went wrong. we've had some divisions and or businesses close during this period. We've also had people who have thrived during this period.
Right.
And so, it's an interesting time, but Alison joined during this period when most people are cutting costs and trying to figure out, how to rein everything in. Alison, understood that this is the time to invest in my business, and how do I come out of this even stronger? So maybe speak to that decision a little bit, and really what you've seen as the biggest benefit for you as a small business owner.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional for me to join during COVID. I started talking to Tom in February, and we were leaving for a trip for Norway, and so I said, hey, let me put this on pause for 2 weeks. I don't want to start something and then leave and then come back and try to dive back into it. So I think my first official meetings were in early March. Mm-hmm. And so early March is when everything just kind of went crazy. And I hesitated. I thought, geez, I probably just made a really bad decision. I want to be around a group of people. I need to pull myself away from this desk for a little bit, every month and think about the business itself. And now I'm going to be stuck here and there's Zoom meetings and this is a lot of money. And what if we face plant? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. And so I talked to my husband about it, and he talked to some of, the leadership surrounding him, and everybody was just same message across the board. Stick with it. Just do it. It will not hurt you. It's going to be good. You need a group of people around you right now. And so I did. And I'm glad I did, because, every 2 weeks, it could be a great day or a terrible day, but I know that I have a group of people there that know my background, know my business, can offer intelligent advice. It's not just somebody making a comment on Facebook, you should do things this way. No, I talk to these people every month, and they know what I do and what I should do and what they think I should do. And we just kind of stick with it and support each other. And I'm glad I stuck it out. It's been absolutely worth it.
Yeah, so are we. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you've been a great addition to the group. And, not to mention this because it was me, but one of the things that comes out of this group is that sometimes you want to reach out individually to another member of the group because they have specific advice in an area that you find valuable. Right. And so you reached out to me to have a conversation one time about, I think, another business that you were looking to acquire. Mm-hmm. I've reached out to other members about specific things. You mentioned the guy that's doing the Amazon stuff.
Right.
Mike, he and I have had some conversations about a side business that I have kind of dipped my toe into a little bit as well. And because he brings some expertise, and that's valuable. We don't always have those people in our network, or at least close enough that we think we could just pick up the phone and call them at any time, mm-hmm. right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's extremely valuable. So, Tom, talk to us about how we functioned during COVID, because, we're used to meeting once a month for 4 hours in somebody's office. So
Right. Yeah, so we had been. And our group, just for edification of all that are listening, but we... in happier times, non-COVID times, we would move around to each individual company, each of the members' locations, and have a five-hour meetings. So we'll start early in the morning with a light breakfast, and then we'll go through a number of. Sometimes we'll do an executive exercise. Sometimes we will do a inclusion exercise that's designed to get us to know one another, even on a deeper level. And then we'll do issue processing, as Austin mentioned. And then we would also, we get speakers in. And I honestly didn't know this until recently, but Vistage is a huge company. We've got 25,000 members worldwide. And I think we've got about 250 to 300 members here in the Phoenix area. And there are 13 other Vistage chairs like myself here in town. The company, being the size it is, it has its own speakers bureau. And I just found out a week or two back that Vistage has the largest speakers bureau in the United States, or that's what I was told. And just some amazing speakers come in. And we had one recently who came in who did an amazing job talking about how to be your best you on a given day, and that was a very inspirational thing for us. So this was how it was set up ahead of COVID. Once COVID came around, we started on Zoom. And it's been a great thing. It was a little dicey getting started because not many people were familiar with Zoom. But I've honestly been impressed and even amazed at how well the group functions being virtual like that. In addition to the group meetings, too, as I work with each member on a one-to-one basis doing executive coaching for a couple of hours each month. And that, too, we've been doing via Zoom. And the results, well, it's not the face-to-face like we've got here, but it's a much better facsimile thereof than I thought it was going to be. But I think we're all looking forward to getting back to face-to-face.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it does work, and I think that there's power in an actual face-to-face, right?
Sure.
I mean, Alison joined right at the beginning of COVID. Today's the first time that we've actually met face-to-face, and we've had multiple Zoom meetings.
Sure.
Yep.
We've had one-on-ones where we've talked about other stuff, but we'd never met until today face-to-face. And so, there is certainly a difference, right? But that technology also helps some of us to be more efficient as well. I mean, Tom, you sent emails this morning to us about, we can start to do one-on-ones, face to face now if you'd like to do that,
right.
And it's up to us whether we're comfortable with that.
Right.
And for me, I thought, I see Tom. I've seen Tom face to face many times. Tom and I don't live close to one another. Our offices aren't close to one another. Maybe it's more efficient for both of us to continue to do it via Zoom, right? And
Sure.
and we might do that. I mean, or maybe we do it once a quarter where it's face to face.
Right.
It saves both of us some efficiency.
Yeah.
As long as Tom and I were on a Zoom call earlier today, and there was a delay in the audio. I think it was on my end, and so we're trying to we got to work through that. And so there are those hiccups, but we get through. We still are able to kind of make that work, and so it's been an interesting time for sure. But there are all kinds of statistics that show that joining a Vistage group as a small business owner helps you to get through difficult times.
Right.
And most of the time, that's not a pandemic, right? I mean, most of the members of Vistage worldwide, probably none of the members of Vistage worldwide have gone through a worldwide pandemic before.
Right.
But they have gone through real estate downturns, economic downturns, the markets falling, all those
Right.
sorts of things that everybody has to kind of come through. And it's those times, I would argue, where it's even more valuable to have other people to talk to about the difficulties that you're going through and to help find solutions to help you emerge stronger.
Right. If I could interject a personal story in that, I've got a friend who's also a Vistage chair in town, and while he was a business owner, he said, I joined a Vistage group. He said it was the best business decision I ever made. And I used to tell people that I didn't have my own personal experience, but I started thinking about my company. And when I was doing my introduction, I said, I'll touch on that later. We were just growing like crazy until 2008. And then the tech bubble blew up and we got crushed. We lost 70% of our revenue, and it was brutal. And I'm not remembering the exact numbers here, but in that downturn, the average company lost, I think it was 50 some odd percent. I'm a little fuzzy on the numbers, but they lost traction. They lost revenue. They lost business. But Vistage member groups on the average were positive. And that's because the companies that Vistage works with on a corporate level were anticipating that bubble, and Vistage members were able to prepare for it. I wasn't a Vistage member. It's the dumbest business decision I never made, right? I didn't even know about Vistage. So, I wish I had. But, yeah, that's definitely helps you through the tough times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly say if you're a business owner out there that's trying to grow your business and need more feedback than what you have around you, and understanding that those who work for you are going to give you a biased opinion, not an unbiased opinion,
right,
then you should certainly be looking at Vistage. So, Alison, I want to give you a few minutes to just kind of talk a little bit about the services that you offer, maybe a little bit more clarity, and then how do we get a hold of you? Website, social media, how best to look at engaging your services?
For sure, yeah. So our website, www.aztileandgroutcleaning.com. You can reach us there or through our phone, 480-773-3916. We're out every day cleaning tiling grout, cleaning carpet, cleaning natural stone, and then educating customers on the natural stone that they have in their house. So Natural stone includes travertine, marble, slate, flagstone, any different granite. Everybody's got granite on their countertops. Any different natural stone you have in your home, we can do something with, whether it be cleaning, sealing, which is so important. Sealing is absolutely essential. Polishing, honing, removing etch marks, stripping waxes off of floors, things like that. One thing a lot of homeowners don't know or don't do when you purchase a new home or you have a new floor installed, a lot of times contractors will tell you not to seal the grout for a year because you're under warranty. If you live on that floor and on your grout for a year, you're most likely going to have some staining after that if it hasn't been sealed. So sealing, again, so important for grout. Sealing natural stone countertops. We had to break the news to a homeowner. She had a new home built in Queen Creek, and she had really, really light colored granite. And she called us and she said, it's kind of discolored by the bar area. If you could just come out and take a look at it. And we're like, oh no. So what had happened? She has bar stools at her island, and her kids were, eating their breakfast there every morning and putting their elbows on the island. And the oil from our skin and food, from breakfast kept getting on the granite, and it hadn't been sealed. And there were permanent discoloration marks in front of every bar stool. And at that point, there's not much you can do.
Oh, dear.
And so, again, just so essential to seal your natural stone. Have a professional come out and do it. Free estimates, free assessments. Take care of your natural stone. It's so valuable and so beautiful. But you definitely want to preserve that. So we can service countertops, showers, pavers, indoor flooring, outdoor water features, outdoor fireplaces. Again, anything that has natural stone or tile on it, we can definitely offer some type of service for it. We also service VCT that you'll find in a lot of, hospitals in the hallways and things like that. Terrazzo is a new service that we offer, concrete. So many different types of things out there. We are always more than willing to come out, take a look at it, offer our professional opinion. But then also, being connected with other business owners and other small businesses in the area. If there's something we can't do, I have a pretty big book of people I can refer you to if I need to. So I never like telling a customer no. If there's something we can't do, I'm going to help you find someone that can. I'm not just going to leave you hanging. So it's something we pride ourselves on. And just, again, customer service. We just want to take care of our customers and do absolutely everything we can to make sure that they're happy.
Yeah. Well, I think our listeners can hear that you're somebody who's definitely going to care about taking care of their needs. So we appreciate you being on the show today. Tom, if somebody's listening and they think, gosh, I could really use some help as a business owner, how best to get a hold of you?
Honestly, the best way to find me is go on LinkedIn and find me on Thomas Goodman, not Tom Goodman, but I'm under Thomas Goodman and Vistage Chair in Phoenix. I'm probably the only Thomas Goodman on LinkedIn who's a Vistage Chair, but I'm certainly the only one in Phoenix. That's probably, honestly, the easiest way to do that. Or you can contact me by email, and that is thomas.goodman@vistagechair.com.
Okay, great. Any specific industries that you'd be interested in talking to at this point?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, everybody. I believe every business owner and person leading a company should be in a business group. So please, if you're interested, call me. And if we have that seat filled on our board already, then there's great chairs around the Phoenix area here. Some really, really dynamite people that have groups here as well. But, I'm always looking for people in the construction industry, legal industry, medical industry.
Banking, maybe?
Yeah, banking and accounting, CPA, CFO type. And we've got a couple of people I'm speaking with right now who may be, for those two, may be joining the group. I'm not sure. But by all means, give me a contact and we'll get you placed somewhere, if not our group.
Awesome. Well, I've appreciated the conversation today, guys. Alison, it's great to meet you face-to-face for the first time.
You as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being in studio, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you. It's been great being here.
You've been listening to Tycoons of Small Biz, proudly hosted by Austin Peterson and Landon Mance. Austin and Landon are comprehensive financial planning professionals specializing in financial, estate, and succession planning for small business owners. Austin and Landon have offices in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and represent clients in 14 states throughout the country. Join Austin, Landon, and the Featured Tycoons live every Tuesday at 1 p.m. right here on Business RadioX and your favorite podcast.